Hello, I'm Dr. Jeffrey Fidel. In this video, I'd like to go over the most important spiritual practice or the most important meditation. And that meditation is being awareness. And being awareness as watching thoughts. So, most suffering occurs when the thinking mind is taken personally. In other words, every thought that comes to the mind, the body of who we are, reacts to those thoughts in our mind. So if they're bad thoughts, it affects us in a bad way. If they're good thoughts, it affects us in a good way. And notice how I'm separating bad thoughts and then I say us. In the first regard, I'm saying bad thoughts affects us, meaning the being of us, in a bad way. And good thoughts in the mind affects the being of us in a good way. So the spiritual practice is to just be the awareness of these thoughts, because we are not the thoughts. In other words, the thoughts in our mind is not the being of who we are. Clearly, this is not this. So what we can do in order to practice this is to do a simple meditation, and that's to just be still and be the awareness of thoughts. So in order to do this, it's very simple. You just sit down in a place and maybe for 5 minutes allow every thought that would naturally come into your mind to just come into your mind, whatever they may be. And the whole object is to observe or be the awareness of those thoughts. In other words, just allow them to come and go and observe them, almost like watching a tennis game or listening to the radio. Don't try to create more thoughts from another thought that you have. It's just really to allow these thoughts to take form and dissipate, and then the next one to take form and dissipate. That's the whole practice. So each morning, even for 5 minutes, this is probably the most important practice that there is, because thoughts in the end are really what causes most human suffering. And when we can observe thoughts or be the awareness of thoughts without allowing them to affect our being, this is how we can start to have the mind, or free ourselves from our mind's own suffering. Because most suffering is in fact needless. It's caused just by thoughts. And of course, thoughts can't hurt the being of who we are unless we react. Now again, meaning the being reacts to those thoughts in our mind. So maybe just for 2 minutes we'll sit and try this out. And like I said, you just sit still and allow thoughts to come and go. So let's try this out. And so that's the practice of being the awareness of thoughts. And that could be done anytime you feel, even if you start to have disturbing thoughts in your mind, that's a good time to practice. The thoughts can't hurt you if you just watch them, be an observer to them. It's when we allow them to cause, or when we react, meaning the being of us reacts to these thoughts in our mind, then that can, of course, start to affect us, because the being then is not conscious that the thought is in the mind, and it can't tell the difference between a real external threat and just a thought. So by practicing this, we become more conscious that a thought is not a real threat as opposed to a real external threat.